Hello, welcome to this webinar provided by Sauce Labs, Sauce and CI/CD using Sauce in your pipeline. And I will be leading this seminar today. My name is Josh Grant and I'm a solution architect at Sauce. So to start, we're going to take a look at this pipeline example, which uses a minimal Angular project as a test application to run a pipeline for. This is similar to other Jenkins jobs, except that you'll notice that every job run has this grid associated with it. And these are basically stages of the pipeline. And a green pipeline means that it passed and all stages passed, whereas a red line indicates a failed pipeline with at least one stage failing. So let's take a look at how this works. The first way we can run a pipeline is to build it directly with a parameter. So now this pipeline only takes a single parameter, SHA-1. This can be either a valid git commit in the project being used. You can also input labels and branches. So I'm going to input VO, which corresponds to a tag that I created on the very first commit of this project. So let's build it and see what we get. You'll notice that the build is starting, and in this case, all of the stages pass with timings associated with each stage. So what did I just run? These are pretty short times. Each stage is roughly around between 30 and 50 milliseconds. So what did I do? Well, let's take a look. Let's take a look at the label or the tag that I ran from, which is located in this Git project hosted on GitHub. So I'll go under releases, under tags, and find V0. This is the file of interest. So this is a Jenkins file. Currently, this is the only file in the project. And what this file does is it tells Jenkins what to execute in what stages. So I create a pipeline object. I say it can use any agent, meaning any node that's freely available. I don't have to specify one. And then I define stages, each beginning with this stage block. And I've defined 1, 2, 3, 4 stages. The first stage corresponds to running code, static code analysis. The second stage corresponds to running unit tests, or JS unit tests in our case. The third stage is a deployment or some kind of application build. And the fourth stage is functional tests. So this is where we would run protractor tests using Sauce. So we can tell that each stage is very basic at this point. You can define steps within each stages, and those correspond to a build step in a typical Jenkins job. So in this case, each stage just echoes back the string passed. And it doesn't actually check or run anything. So if you think of these as bash executions, these are all going to pass. You're going to get no problems running this. And they're also very fast because you're just echoing back this string. So that explains why our Jenkins job ran quickly and why it passed. So this is a good place for a starting point of a pipeline. You could say this is an example of a walking skeleton, which is a concept in CI/CD where you set up a very basic CI/CD pipeline where everything initially passes. You define your stages, you define your steps, and you define your pipeline, and then everything passes. Our pipeline doesn't really do anything or check anything yet, but the point is that we've determined our stages, and they now execute in CI/CD. And if we go back to our Jenkins configuration, you'll also notice there's no build steps and there's no hard-coded Jenkins file. So now everything we need to determine what we're going to run in our CI/CD pipeline in Jenkins comes from this Jenkins file, which is under source control in our project. So let's do something a bit more interesting than just executing echo commands. Okay, let's see what else we can do with this pipeline. After adding the Jenkins file, I've now added a bunch of other assets to the project that correspond to a very basic Node application. So this includes the front end via AngularJS and some very, very rudimentary backend code. So let's see what this application looks like. Like I said, it's very rudimentary. So we're going to go here and we're going to go npm start. And the app is now up on my local host. So let's see what it looks like. This is it. This app contains 2 views to start. Here's a partial view. Here's another partial view. So that all corresponds to these assets here. So within this project as well, in addition to the Angular views, we've also got some protractor-based tests that test end-to-end. So we can use those with Sauce, which we will do shortly. In addition, we also have some JavaScript unit tests for the front end, and those are kept in with the code for the Angular views. So here's a test that uses Karma to run, and we can run those in addition with our pipeline as well. Lastly, bundled with the app is a linter. In this case, it's JS hint, which is a conventional linter that's used by a lot of Angular projects and by a lot of Node projects. So we can also have a step in our pipeline where we lint our code. Okay, so now let's see how we can test this app as part of our pipeline in various steps. The first thing we are going to look at is the changes we've made to the Jenkins file to see what we're going to execute as part of our pipeline. So by going to the tag of this version, along with the Angular app, let's see what changes I've made to the Jenkins file. So here you can see that my Jenkins file now executes tasks and scripts as part of each stage, as opposed to just echoing back strings. So in the first stage, we still run static code analysis. We execute via shell npm install to get all the dependencies in order to execute the linter. And then we execute npm run lint, which runs a JS hint command that lints our code. Second stage is run unit tests. We're going to run Karma unit tests using credentials from Sauce. I'm going to use Sauce in my credentials. This is actually a token from Jenkins that was generated in order to use my Sauce username and access key. Then we're going to deploy our application, which is just running npm start. And lastly, we're going to run functional tests, and these are protractor tests. So we're again going to use Sauce, and we're going to actually start up via Jenkins a Sauce Connect tunnel in order to connect to our instance. And this is the command to run those protractor tests, npm run protractor. So let's take a look of what we get. So I'm going to build from this tag, v1. The job starts. The first stage is just checking out the source from Git. And then we run static code analysis, which is our linter. We can see the progress here. Okay. And then if we go and take a look at sauce, we'll be able to see what's executing. Get the page a refresh. We're just completing the unit test stage. And we can see here that we've connected and we're actually executing those tests on sauce. If we go back to our pipeline, we'll see that it is running. We have passing tests, we have dots. Dots are passing tests, which is pretty good. And we have a success. And it's closing down the sauce connect as part of that stage. We deploy our application, which succeeds, meaning our application was built. And now we're running functional tests. So these are protractor tests that run in sauce as well. So let's take a look. Those are in process of connecting to sauce via the tunnel, which has to start up. Here we find that they're connecting and starting. We're running them against Firefox. And if we look at what's generated in the live video, you'll see that we are going to the same app as before. And it finishes. So now we've had a successful pipeline run that includes running unit tests, a linter, deploying or building our application, and actually running end-to-end tests. And we're able to run all these tests using sauce, which is particularly interesting because now our Jenkins node that was actually responsible for executing this code from source doesn't actually need any information or any browser dependencies. So you don't have to install full-on browsers. You don't have to install any sort of infrastructure related to that on your nodes. So let's look at something a little more interesting now that we've seen the kind of basic case of how to run a Jenkins pipeline job with sauce. We're going to do something a little more interesting, and we're going to trigger a pipeline job based on a new branch that we're going to open a pull request with or a PR with. The pipeline will then run using the code in that pull request and test against it in the pipeline. So this can be configured in your pipeline job, setting a pull request, GitHub pull request builder as a build trigger. So you can set this up. There's tutorials online to show how this is set up. And I have set this up for the Sauce Labs pipeline job. So let's go to our project, and I'm going to create a new branch called some feature. And I'm going to introduce a small but obvious bug. Okay, I'm going to go into this. So in one of the views, we have the text this demo is going to pass, and I'm going to type that this demo is going to fail. And the protractor tests look for this view to say that this test will pass. Now we'll say this test will fail, or this demo will fail. And keep in mind that this change could happen anywhere in your code base. So I could have made a change to the tests, I could have made a change to the application, I could have made a change to like front-end code, back-end code, template code, whatever. So anything that happens in your feature branch. So I'm going to commit this change. And I'm going to push this up. Some feature. And now this new branch is up on GitHub. And I will open a branch the same as usual. So I'm going to go back to GitHub. And I'm going to go to this new branch that was pushed up. I'm going to merge it to my sample pipeline. And I'm going to open up the pull request in the usual way. Now we see that from GitHub, some checks are now running to verify whether this pull request is good or not. And if we go back, we can see that this pipeline job is now triggered using the code that was from the PR. If I click on the settings, and I look at parameters, it's using this pull request. So let's see what happens. Static code analysis is fine. We didn't make any changes that would cause any problems there. The unit tests run against this PR. And they pass. The application is deployed, right? We just do an npm start and it's created on this Jenkins node. Now we're running the functional tests. And if we go to Sauce and log in, we'll see that the unit tests have run, and we have some tests running. WebDriver instances are starting. And now the tests have actually connected to Sauce and are running. So let's see what happens. The pipeline has now failed. Why did it fail? Well, we can take a look right from our console. We know that we were using Sauce. So similar to a freestyle job, you do get a console output. And here's the expected message. Failure. Expected this demo is going to fail. And we're going to have to match this with this demo is going to pass. So the tests fail. So we caught a bug. We caught a bug right from our PR. This didn't have to go into a nightly build. It didn't have to go into a production build. This was caught at the time of development, like before the pull request gets merged. So to fix this issue, to resolve this issue, we're going to, so the new requirement was that the demo shows that this test is going to fail. So now we're going to actually we're going to update our tests to reflect the reality of this new feature. We could fix the bug, but let's say it was an actual feature that was requested. We're going to go right into the tests. And we're going to look for this demo is going to fail. We see that those tests are under source control. Now, here's something fun. Now that we've created this PR, when we push up the change to the PR, this will automatically trigger new changes. So we see here that in GitHub, our changes are pending, and a new pipeline run has been triggered. Now again, if you're making several commits to a pull request, each new commit that you push up to your open PR will trigger its own pipeline run in this configuration. So if your workflow is to push several small commits up, every commit will go through the pipeline, and stages will fail as issues or as bugs or things that are flagged are introduced. Again, the unit tests pass. Like we didn't change that part of the code at all, right? So we should see that those are passing consistently. If we did make a change to unit tests, or we did make a change to some other area of the code, a more complex change, the unit test may fail. So this is kind of comprehensively testing stage by stage every level that you have tests for. And now we're going to start up these functional tests, and they should pass. We have unit test triggered here. And we'll see the protractor tests started in sauce momentarily. There they are. So they're kicking off. You can see in GitHub it's still pending. And it looks like the pipeline will pass. Build 33. Let's go down to the bottom. Pass on sauce. Get the notification back. Quick refresh shows success. Pipeline passes. So here we've made use of our pipeline, going from a walking skeleton where you have basic steps laid out of which stages you would like to execute and in which order. We were able to add some meat onto that walking skeleton and put in actual functionality that we would like to run. tests we would like to test in the test stages, unit and functional. We can also execute a static code analysis and a deploy step. We order it appropriately, and then we're able to trigger those pipelines manually. And lastly, we are able to configure these pipelines to run on every pull request. So every pull request now goes through the pipeline and passes through all these stages. Bugs are caught per stage and can be updated as part of the pull request instead of later on in development or in production or in deployment. And so that concludes our Sauce Labs integrated Jenkins pipeline demo using pull requests and triggering pipeline builds from GitHub pull requests. Thank you very much.